This is a film study focused on Miami Dolphins safety Dante Trader Jr., who I think had an underrated 2025 season. He's a very active, tough, willing tackler, very good across multiple coverage schemes, whether it's man, zone, or match stuff. I would say he's very adept at coordination, pre-snap communication between him and other safeties, corners, if you will, to get himself and everyone else in the right spot. I'm going to focus my analysis from two games in the midseason of his rookie year in Miami. Week 8 against the Falcons, and then Week 9 home loss against the Baltimore Ravens. So first play we're going to take a look at here is a 3rd and 3. Motion across right to left from the boundary to the field. Trader oftentimes played to the right in Miami's structure under Anthony Weaver, who of course at this point has since left and been hired as a DC in Baltimore. But sometimes he played into the boundary. This is a really nice match, if you ask me. Formation-wise, it ends up almost being like a stack twins. When I say stack twins, I'm talking about the two receivers down here to the bottom side. And Miami's really going to play, if you ask me, man-free. The safety to the top side on the motion is going to rotate back to center field. Trader walks down to kind of match this. And you can see that Trader's got some type of hand signal that he's giving here, along with verbal communication, I'm sure, to the corner who's pressed up about how they're going to handle these releases. And I think they do a really nice job here. Cousins looks elsewhere. It ends up being, a pass that he basically throws away. We're focusing on Trader, who's got a nameplate or spot shadowed, if you will, above him. How he's handling, I think it's Mooney from the stacked twins running across the field. Multiple examples of this from the two games that I focused on specifically, but others as well. I would say he's a very smooth operator on match coverages or things like that from a stacked twins alignment where someone's got to make a decision or a call about how you're supposed to handle things. This is going to be a too high look here, zone on a 4th and 3. In fact, it's the ensuing play, the very next play. They've got 3 over 2, they being Miami. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, the outside corner, and Trader are all lined up over the twins here to the bottom side of the field's Pitts. And I believe Mooney, once again. Trader does a really nice job of handling Pitts' route, kind of this deeper out concept. Cousins actually looks elsewhere. Cousins is looking at the top side where Bijan Robinson goes in that kind of out motion. Initially, he comes off that read really fast, he being Cousins. And Trader does a nice job generally, I think, in these two high safety alignments, staying really balanced. And he's agile, quick on how to transition, flip, and or open his hips to handle routes. In this case, it's Pitts' route to the bottom left corner of our screen. Look, Trader was a 2-sport athlete in college, meaning he played 2 Division I sports at the Big Ten level. University of Maryland, of course, has had 8 different defensive backs drafted over the last 8 seasons, I think dating back to 2018 or maybe 2019. As far as Trader goes, look, he was a top 10 recruit in the country for lacrosse. In his first season in Miami as a rookie this year, he had to deal with Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was in on the tackle here on the conversion. But in addition, Ifeatu Melifonwu, 2 veteran starters that he was behind on the depth chart, if you will. In the games that I watched film of, he was generally on the field in their nickel 4-2-5 alignment. I think we're into the second quarter of that win over the Falcons here. It's a 1st and 10. Trader spot shadowed in red before I provide the nameplate over top of him. He's going to sit down on the hash here, really buzz cover 3, insert cover 3, however people want to refer to it. I think you get an idea of his awareness that's on display as he's dropping down. The quarterback will look away. The quarterback will look to the top side. Once again, it's almost a mirrored image in some ways. Cousins is going to focus on Bijan Robinson, who's in motion as one of 2 running backs on the field. So Trader will end up dealing with this yellow in breaker, almost like a high-low concept, really, between Mooney at the bottom of the screen and then Pitts, the tight end. Like I said, he's sitting down in what I would refer to as a cover 3. You can see the bottom side corner getting depth, a zone drop, zone turn, if you will, with his eyes on the quarterback. Free safety, which I think is Melifonwu in the middle of the field. And then the other corner at the top side is really kind of, I don't want to say betraying, but he's giving Cousins a difficult look. It's a snag flat concept to the top side of the screen. So the receiver / tight end is going to sit down, and then Bijan Robinson out into the flats, and Cousins is looking there initially. Because it's cover 3, Cousins thinks he's going to get an easy completion with the linebacker. I think it's Brooks expanding to the flats. When I talk about Cousins, You can see his visual path here. I'm not showing the end zone angle for most of these, but as far as Trader goes, it's cover 3. He's sitting down on the hash, quarterback looking away. He's going to find work, and he sits under or melts underneath of that route by Mooney from the bottom side of the screen. And I'm not saying it's a great route by Mooney. In fact, in this game, I was really unimpressed with his route running and his efficiency as far as his steps. But Trader, super aware football player, if you ask me, very versatile. I think he's got an opportunity to fit into the starting safety role in 2026 under Jeff Hafley's defense. I believe out of their 12 or 13 picks, they being Miami in the draft, they only took one safety, and that was the guy from Texas in the 5th round. Somewhat similar dynamic here into the 3rd quarter of that same game against the Falcons, except now he's going to drop into the flats in a cover 3. He only had 2 tackles in this game, 1 PD, which I'll show you here in a moment, but he does a really nice job of taking away routes. It's not what occurred on the previous snap that I showed you, but it does here. So you got twin receivers to the bottom side into the boundary, one of which is a tight end, I believe, and it's a high-low concept. Trader's going to fit on the underneath side of this, and he takes it away. That's exactly where Cousins ends up looking post-snap, and then Cousins just goes elsewhere really quickly. Again, I think you've got another version of cover 3. The difference is instead of Trader inserting, onto the hash, now he's going to insert to the flats. So he's going to get more width to the outside, working to the top and or the bottom of the numbers. Middle of the field free safety, I think is Fitzpatrick. 2 corners illustrated with the red arrows getting depth, taking zone turns, meaning eyes on the quarterback. Trader takes away the route, and so Cousins has got to go elsewhere. He's very agile, and I think beyond just being quick, Trader's under control while being quick. He can get to his spot and have his eyes on the quarterback. I think he came to Miami NFL ready, and is just, again, another guy in a long line of Maryland DBs, to come into the NFL ready to contribute, whether you're talking about Tarheeb Steele, Cam Hart didn't go to the University of Maryland. Jalen Husky did, transferred in, and just got drafted this past draft, but pick 100 to the Jacksonville Jags. 8 defensive backs in the last 8 years taken at this point, and Trader just looks like another guy to me who comes in ready to go as far as being coverage diverse, and he also willing to come downhill and make tackles. This one will be a really great play on the ball from a half-field alignment. 2nd and 10, I think we're into the 3rd quarter. Like I said, very quick decision as far as Cousins goes. But here's the rotation, or the movement, I should say. It's an irregular Tampa 2, so it's not Minkah Fitzpatrick who's going to roll to the other half side of the field. When I say irregular Tampa 2, or different names or terminologies go with it, basically one of the half-field safeties is Trader, a safety. The other is the top side outside corner. Again, you've got a high-low concept for Cousins to read, and the Tampa 2 has the corner sitting in the flats. He's going to kind of try to squeeze this flat route, and that elicits a reaction from Cousins to get rid of the ball quickly and throw it to the high part of the concept. Again, I think it's Mooney. You can see Cousins is releasing the football and basically testing Trader's ability to come downhill at a great angle. This opportunity to create a turnover. The way he jars the football loose and perhaps gives a teammate the chance to settle underneath of the ball. I think it's a great play. His only PD of the season, according to the stats that I saw on Pro Football Reference and one of the other games that I did glance at, didn't cut up film of. I thought he had a couple that could have been attributed to him as well. 2 more plays here from this win over the Falcons. Again, he's spot shadowed up at the top. It's a 1st and 10. I believe we're into the 4th quarter. He's lined up into the boundary, and they're going to roll him to center field. Another example where you can talk about his agility and his ability to stay under control, but read the routes or read the field as he does so. So extrapolating him moving to the center field here from a frozen frame, 2-man blitz or 2-man add-on, I should say. It's a zone blitz structure. So bring in 5 in the case of Anthony Weaver in Miami, and then dropping out 6. So it's a 3 deep, 3 under package as far as the coverage. A zone blitz structure, and you can see Trader is quickly post-snap getting himself back to center field as one of the 3 deep guys. And there's various rules associated with who you're supposed to take as far as underneath droppers go. But for Trader, he's just reading the quarterback. I think it's Mooney again, not really accelerating well into this route, in my opinion. But watch the angle that Trader takes. It kind of surprised me. It was a little flat, I thought, at first, and then he's able to turn this back to the top of the numbers. I think he's almost being I don't want to say intentionally flat. I think you would really, in an ideal fashion, want him to get a little bit more depth here. But he definitely cuts the receiver off. Essentially, we would call it run the route for him. Now, that generally refers to an outside corner on some of these verticals. He really just hedged to the inside and closed off that lane for Mooney. Essentially, to use a basketball analogy, he got there first. Last play here, I think it's from that same sequence again. We're into the fourth quarter. I believe Miami wins this game like 31-10, somewhere in that range. It's a 4th and 7. There's a perimeter screen up to the top. This is really just a 3-on-3. So as far as spacing goes, Miami is, lined up in a mug look, threatening to blitz a whole bunch of guys. And so Cousins going to get the ball out quick to Pitts, illustrated by that orange line here out into the flats with 2 lead blockers. So you got Melifonwu, Trader, and then I think the outside corner up to the top is the 3-on-3. Great awareness here on the part of Trader, in my opinion. Triggered downhill immediately, number one. And consistently, you can see him show up in a physical manner, either against the run or here, a perimeter screen. He knows where his help is. His help is to the inside in the case of Melifonwu and any other teammates who might be pursuing from inside out. The game's over at this point functionally. Like I said, I think you're talking about a 3-score differential. To me, when I watched the film of Trader, I had done so leading up to the draft. If you're unaware, myself and about a dozen other people did a significant amount of work on the 2026 NFL draft, which was very deep at the safety position. I watched some of the Trader film during that time period from his rookie year in the NFL, and now having rewatched it again, I will tell you he compares extremely favorably to some of the guys taken in the 3rd round. And keep in mind, he was a 5th round pick in the 2025 draft. I'm talking about A.J. Halsey from LSU. Jacoby Thomas, I would say Trader is superior to in almost every way, from a coverage dynamic, an agility standpoint, certainly as a tackler coming downhill. Even guys like Genesis Smith, who's got really poor effort and angles as far as getting after the football in the run game. Basically, Trader is a very active, involved football player. A lot of burst, and that shows up in the rookie film. This game against the Ravens, which of course I covered being a Ravens content creator, he had 13 tackles. This one, he's lined up into the boundary, which is typical, and then is going to roll to half field. Really, I think you've got a Tampa 2 version here. Quick completion to Zay Flowers is one of the stacked receivers here, or tightly aligned with Mark Andrews. And then Flowers just does, Flowers things. He makes people miss. As far as Trader goes, really great change of direction skills, if you ask me. Whether you call it, T-step, plant point burst, whatever, meaning he can get to the top of his drop if it's zone, and then put his foot in the ground, which is what he's getting ready to do, come downhill and get involved with the tackle. Flowers is going to split these 2 defenders. I think it's Chop Robinson, an outside linebacker, actual pass rusher, and then outside corner that Flowers essentially does, like I said, Zay Flowers things. It makes these guys miss. It's Trader who ends up getting credited with the shoestring tackle. Played 17 games, all 17 games. Only 3 of them designated as starts. A little silly sometimes because it really depends on, the first possession or first play of the first possession of the game. Is the other team's offense in 11 personnel? If so, Trader was generally on in a 4-2-5 nickel alignment. If it was a base defensive structure for Miami, Minkah Fitzpatrick and Ifeatu Melifonwu were the safeties on the field for the most part. A patented Ravens route here as far as tight ends over the course of the last, almost decade at this point, specific to Mark Andrews. I do expect to see Trader start in 2026. He does give up a touchdown here. It kind of turns into an over route climb concept by Andrews. Sometimes these are adapted by Andrews and or Lamar. Those guys are great at it. It's a 2nd and 7. They basically are making it look like mesh. There's a safety in the middle of the field. Trader is spot shadowed or has his nameplate over the top of him here, and he's responsible for Andrews. Baltimore's making it look like a mesh concept, and then Trader and I think that's Fitzpatrick run into each other. They just don't have this sifted out very well. I believe that's Fitzpatrick on Hopkins, and then like I said, Trader is on Andrews, and Andrews makes it look like mesh and then veers back up to the field. You can see that Trader and Fitzpatrick have run into each other. A, learning opportunity, and B, one of those things that surprised me a little bit because Anthony Weaver knows Baltimore's offense, and so he was the defensive coordinator last year. This is a specialty of Baltimore, especially with Mark Andrews. Make it look like mesh and then shoot over the top. The only thing that surprised, the second part of this, I should say, that surprised me is that the route from Bateman, the receiver at the top of the field, is almost actually running into Andrews. And that's one of the things people have talked about over the course of the years is that sometimes these are adaptations by Andrews and or Lamar. As far as Trader goes, the worst target that I had seen of him on film. In fact, I didn't really see him targeted very often. I struggle with that designation anyway. There's some times where PFF or other rating services will say that a player was targeted 7 times in the course of a game, and you go back and watch it, and I just can't find it. I think they really do football fans, they being PFF, a disservice by blindly saying where the number of targets from a certain game and not telling you, the viewer or the fan, what point in time those actual targets occurred so you can go confirm and see them for yourself. But that's clearly one that Trader and the Dolphins would have liked to have back. 2 more chances to talk about his willingness as a tackler and then competitive flair and honestly, explosiveness. This is a 2nd and 20 from that Week 9 loss at home. It's after a sack. I believe it was by Brady Chubb. But a really violent tackle here on Derrick Henry by Dante Trader, which you don't normally hear associated with safeties and DBs, right? So it's a 2nd and 20, like I said. They get the front blocked up. It's a trap play. So they're trapping, I believe that's Phillips down here before he got traded. It's a 17-yard run by Henry. Well, I should say it's 17 yards from where he's lined up before he's touched by Trader. And Trader, in fact, has to run, over 12 yards to do it. I can do that distance calculation. Some of it you can do by sightline, but the Once Sports Analyser that I use and I personally promote gives you the opportunity to track distances. And I think this is a super brilliant tackle by him. It's low. No, he's not on the train tracks. Earlier, Melifonwu, the other safety, one of the starting safeties from Miami, got run over by Derrick Henry down in the red zone. This is a great opportunity to talk about his willingness to tackle and then his willingness to be able to hit low. Look, I'm not a fan of seeing Derrick Henry get upended. He's a, he plays for my favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens, and so I don't really enjoy seeing that. But I root for Dante Trader to be up front. His dad is a longtime assistant coach at Salisbury University, which was super helpful to me as a young coach trying to learn the game and learn some of the intricacies. His dad and some of the staff there, specifically Rob Disbennett, were fantastic to me in trying to learn the game. In addition, Dante Trader's uncle, Dustin Johnson, I'm sure you've never heard of, was an unbelievable college quarterback. I think he's now a DB coach at Villanova. Set records as far as rushing, being an option quarterback and running the football. I think he ran for 1,200 yards as a true freshman at Salisbury. It's a football family, and so I know a little bit about them. Don't know Dante Trader personally at all, but know enough about the family to not be surprised at all that he shows up to the NFL and to Maryland before that, really ready for almost anything. Another example of the physicality here and the awareness during the middle of the play. It's an outside zone or stretch concept for the Ravens that, first of all, gets stacked up. Second of all, you'll kind of lose perspective of Trader a little bit. The camera moves a little bit abruptly sometimes in 2025 on NFL film. I suspect that the manner of the camera usage has been automated somewhat. Instead of it smoothly moving here, it kind of stutters a little bit and moves twice. But in any case, Trader is trying to strip the football as a teammate is down underneath of Derrick Henry, holding on for dear life. And he's unable to do so. I don't even know if he gets credited for the tackle here. but very aware football play, if you ask me. A guy who gets involved. That was a 3rd and 2. I'm obviously rooting for Dante Trader, even though he doesn't play for the Ravens. I've witnessed his game from Maryland and thought that he was underrated in that draft. This will be the last play that I show another coverage opportunity. He'll latch on to Mark Andrews, who is in kind of short motion here from the bottom of our screen. If you're unaware of the quality of DB that's been drafted from the University of Maryland in recent years, and I think some of it even predates Mike Loxley, who's been a great recruiter for a long time. Tarheeb Steele, who I talked about earlier, Nick Cross, a safety, 3rd round pick, Jacorian Bennett with the Raiders, Deonte Banks with the Giants, Darnell Savage before that as a safety, spent some time with the Packers. This is a chance for us to talk about the awareness during the play for a guy who was a rookie. Lamar's going to look to the top side of the screen, so away from this read, but he ends up covering Andrews across the field. Lamar's looking for Zay Flowers in the flats, right? You can't blame him, matched up against what we can presume to be a nickel DB, and Lamar chooses not to go there at all. I mean, there with the red square at the top side of the screen, Lamar kind of perceives some pressure here. If he had been able to maintain his focus in the middle of the field or his right, the bottom side of our screen, you've got a 2-on-1 developing. So, Isaiah Likely is going to be wide open in the bottom side of the screen. My apologies, it's actually Justice Hill, running back. But in any case, Trader tracks Andrews all the way across the field. A low percentage opportunity for the tight end in any case, but he sticks to him. He's athletic enough, quick enough to be able to cover guys. I think smart enough to be able to understand how to adapt or respond in the middle of the play to the coverages. I think Trader was involved in 53 or 55 tackles for his rookie season. No interceptions. 1 PD officially. I thought there was 2 others in a game. He had to wait behind Minkah Fitzpatrick and Melifonwu, but the path has been opened up to starting, right? I think he's more talented than the 5th round pick in 2025. Again, if you were to stick him in the most recent draft, I think he compares favorably to a number of the guys that were taken in the 3rd round. I think it's just illustrative of the type of DB talent, corner, safety, even nickel, that is coming out every year. You can find smart, talented, tough, and versatile guys into the 5th round that can tackle in their rookie season. Tarheeb Steele from Maryland, Cam Hart. Both of those guys were drafted in the 5th round by the Chargers. Cam Hart, didn't play at the University of Maryland. He played good counsel, but went to college at Notre Dame. Trader, to me, is just another in a long line of these guys that can have a long career. Superbly talented athlete. Like I said, he wasn't just a 2-sport athlete at the Division I level. Actually, a 2023 All-American in lacrosse. So I should say honorable mention, but still someone who, if he chose a different sport at that time, he's probably playing in the PLL or the NLL at this point, or maybe even competing or trying to compete to get on the national men's lacrosse team. He'll have a chance to start for the Dolphins in 2026 with a larger role. I think he has shoulder injuries at some point during his rookie year. I didn't have any awareness of that at all. That could explain some of the gaps or the holes in various weeks where he didn't get a whole lot of snaps. I don't pretend to know, to be honest with you. I just know, looking at his snap count on a particular week and then watching the film, he looks like a guy that they trusted. Anthony Weaver, Minkah Fitzpatrick, etc. From the film I focused on, Hafley comes in, a longtime NFL assistant, former DC in Green Bay. He's going to need a safety, well, multiple safeties to rely on. And it sounds like, to me, Trader's been a big part of the offseason program thus far. He's trying to take advantage of that, I guess, with 3 missing experienced safeties. They also had a veteran, like AFC East guy, Ashton Davis, who had played with the Jets and then spent 1 year in Miami. All 3 of those guys, Melifonwu, Minkah, and Davis, are out of the equation. I think 2 of them are unsigned. I have to like this chance for Trader to go out, establish himself. I think the rookie film is favorable, and it backs up that he's got a legitimate chance to start in year 2 and play significant snaps. Personally, I don't cover the Dolphins. If you're unfamiliar with my work, I generally focus on the Ravens, my favorite team, the Detroit Lions, and some Seattle Seahawks videos as well. So interesting opportunity, perhaps. I think it's week 8 or week 9 of the 2026 season. Miami goes to Detroit to play the Lions, so perhaps I have an opportunity to follow up. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think it was too few plays that I illustrated here, I think it ended up being 12. I generally start with a list of 50 to 60 plays and cut that in half, if not more. So here I think I started with about 32 because it was only comprised of 2 games. Week 8 against the Falcons, a win on the road, and then Week 9, the home loss to the Baltimore Ravens. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. And then finally, if you think other Dolphins fans or fans of Dante Trader or people who know the University of Maryland would appreciate this video, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.